Good afternoon and welcome to the Times Ascent Hangouts uh, for another exciting session today. I am Avik Das and I will be moderating the session for the next 1 hour. The topic for today's discussion is the path of joy for working professionals, wherein we have two esteemed panelists to share their views. First, we have Gitanjadi Shivdasani, who is the Vice President and Head of Human Resources and Organization at NL Green Power. She has about 20 years of coaching and leadership experience in areas of organizational training, talent strategy, and development with companies like General Electric, Aon Hewitt, and Vodafone. She is also a mindfulness coach and certified in Thomas profiling. Gitanjali, welcome to the panel and good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Avik, for your kind introduction and for having me here. The path of joy is a subject that needs to be understood deeply. It is a subject that needs to be analyzed and investigated through your own experience of your life. So I would say today we have a small window of opportunity. When I say we, I mean Ashish and I. We have a small window of opportunity to share with you our ideas, our learnings, and our experiences from our own path of life. And I think that if this session can sow some seeds of interest or initiation for you, for the participants, then we would consider our work done. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm sure that our audience and I, of course, we will have an enthralling session. Thank you so much, Gitanjali. Next, our second speaker is Ashish Kumar, who is a senior consultant and regional trainer at Limra Loma Global. Ashish has over 25 years of experience across life insurance, the health insurance, and the healthcare sector. He has worked in senior management roles for companies like Tata AIG, Marsh India, HCL Healthcare, and Healthcare at Home. Ashish is also a mindfulness trainer and a regular speaker at corporates and educational institutions on mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and managing individual success. Welcome, Ashish, on the panel.
Thank you, Avik, for that very kind introduction. It's a pleasure for me, it's a privilege for me to be speaking on this platform along with Gitanjali. This is a subject which is very close to our heart. And we will start by talking about first stress, because these are very tough times currently that we are all facing. The stock markets have crashed, sales are down, businesses are facing bankruptcies, individuals are losing jobs, and the trust deficit is at a very high level. The employer is thinking that the employee is having a good time at home, and the employees are saying that we are working even longer hours, but our productivity is low. So there is some amount of trust deficit that is there amongst the employer and employees. There is trust deficit between the supplier and consumer of services. So people don't want to hire cabs because they're not very sure. And all of this cumulatively is having a very adverse impact on the health conditions. You know, people are either overeating or not undereating, or they're not able to sleep. The alcohol consumption has gone up, and there are many, many challenges which are happening. So these are very tough times. And, you know, when times and Gitanjali reached out, you know, we thought we must talk about how to manage our mind, how to manage our, how to manage our mind and stress to be able to perform better. So next slide, please. We need to understand stress. Normally, people think stress is a psychological phenomena, but stress actually is our body's response to threat, any threat that is perceived or actual. This is our response whenever there is something which is threatening to us. And let us understand this, you know, by way of an example, going back a little bit into the history of human evolution, when we used to live in jungles. And of the 6 million years that human beings have been living on planet Earth, it's only 10,000 years about when we have settled down in villages and cities. For about 59,90,000 years, we were living in jungles. And in jungles, the threat came to us from the wild animals. And whenever a human being would see a wild animal, the body would trigger a stress response, which would mean there is a chemical reaction that happens in our body, and a flight or fight response is triggered. During this stress response, our heart rate increases, our breathing quickens, muscles tighten, and blood pressure rises. So if I see a lion, I have two choices. I either fight and kill the lion, or I run away from there. If I decide to fight, the body will pump blood into my hands, and if I decide to run away, the body would pump blood into my legs. And that is how stress got us ready to act, and that is how stress protected us over millions of years. So stress, normally has a very negative connotation. But one thing I would like to share with everyone here is, if there was no stress, we would not have survived so many millions of years. So there are two types of stress: acute stress, which is the example I just gave, where we see a wild animal, the stress happens, and the wild animal passes away, the stress subsides. And the other one that we face these days is chronic stress or distress, which is the problem, which is the stress which causes a lot of health problems. And what is happening is, as we are living in cities now, there are no wild animals, and those wild animals have been replaced by human beings, very sadly. So we are surrounded by people who cause us stress. It could be a boss, it could be dominating parents, it could be a nagging spouse, it could be an irate customer, it could be jealous siblings, it could be anyone. And we are surrounded by these people all the time. There is no escaping from these people, and that is why there is a sense of overwhelmed. We are always under stress, and our body is constantly in that overdrive mode, constantly, because our body doesn't know whether the stress is happening because of seeing a wild animal or because of seeing a boss or a customer. So it is regularly pumping blood, and that is the reason a lot of people are landing up having chronic diseases like blood pressure, diabetes, etc. But is genetics our destiny? Just because we have been living this way for millions of years, is it our destiny that we will continue to live this way for forever our life? Fortunately not. There is an option we have where we can pause, and pay attention to what is happening to us in the current moment. And by pausing, we can, rather than react, we can choose to respond. And when I talk about pausing, normally people ask me, Ashish, if we pause, people will think that I am a nincompoop. I am stupid, I am duffer, I can't think quickly. But friends, I'm not talking about pausing for even a minute. I'm talking about pausing for less than a second. The automatic brain reaction that takes place in our mind is for a fraction of second. So even if we pause for a second, it gives us an option to gather our thoughts and respond to the situation. So it's very important for us to pause and see what is happening in the moment. All of us would relate, either it has happened to us in our lives or it has happened to somebody we know, that there was an instant reaction to some trigger that happened in our life, and we later regret, I wish I had not said this, I wish I had not done that. There is so much that happens in the heat of the moment, but even if we pause for a second, it can completely transform our lives. I'd like to share an example which happened in one of the sessions I was doing. And there was this young boy, young adult who had just got married. After my session got over, he came to me and said, Ashish sir, what you have shared about pausing will transform my life. I could not understand why he was saying that. And he shared with me what was happening in his life. He says, I get home every day around 6 p.m. or so, and from 6:37 p.m. till about 8:30 p.m. daily, there is an argument going on between me and my wife. She says something, I say something, and it goes back and forth, and we are fighting for 1.5 hours. Daily routine is there. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. When she's speaking, I'm going to pause. I'm not going to react, and I'm sure things will change. And that was such a big transformation for him, that from this small insight that I shared in my session with him. And similarly, friends, there are many times we feel triggered by many things that are happening around us. If we just pause for less than a second and step back, it will give us many opportunities to many different ways. Normally, we think there is only one way to do something, but when we pause, it opens up more possibilities in that moment. But like swimming can't be learned by just talking about it or reading about it, I will request you to take a couple of breaths, which is a very great way to practice how to pause. So just move next slide, please. What I would request you is all to sit with your back straight and inhale deeply, just take in a deep breath and fill in your lungs. And once your lungs are full, relax and let go of your breath normally. Breathe in deeply, keeping your neck and back straight, chin parallel to the ground. Breathe in deeply, fill in your lungs, and exhale completely. And as you are breathing, you can also add a count to it. Breathing in 1, breathing out 2. Even if you can take 3 mindful breaths whenever you are in stress, you will find that it energizes you. And there is science behind this. Our breath is what carries oxygen. And when oxygen recharges us. So whenever you take 3 mindful breaths, it will give you a new perspective. It will energize you. It will refresh you, and you will be able to act better in that situation. Next slide, please. The breath is linked to our subconscious mind. We during the day we don't breathe consciously. We just keep on doing our work, and the breath keeps coming in and keeps going out. And that is the reason I would like to take a couple of minutes to explain how our subconscious mind works, because it is very important to understand in the context of stress. Nearly half of inputs to our brain come from visual inputs. They come to us from our eyes. And this is not an anatomically correct diagram, but it's good for representation purpose and for our understanding purpose. From the eyes, the inputs go to thalamus. From thalamus, they are transmitted to occipital lobe for data processing. And from occipital lobe, they come to amygdala, from where the actions get triggered. You can understand amygdala by thinking of air traffic controller at an airport. The air traffic controller ensures that planes land and planes take off, like that. Amygdala is connected with it's very well connected part of the organ of the brain, and it can command our body. But what happens is, in case of stress, there is the logical processing of data does not take place, and there is a shortcut which takes place, wherein the data is communicated from thalamus to amygdala directly. And that is the reason, in case of stress, we are not able to think properly, we are not able to solve problems properly, and we are not able to take decisions properly. Just think of it, again, by thinking of a lion in the jungle. If I see a lion and if I stop to do data processing, maybe the lion is well fed and it's not going to kill me. Maybe it's not a man eater and it's not going to kill me. If I'm taking so much time to take the decision, the lion will come and eat me. That is why the body, to preserve ourselves, one of the primary functions of the mind is to ensure our survival. So that is why it bypasses the logical decision making and just communicates directly with amygdala. And it is very important that we become conscious. Today we don't live in jungles, so we need to be conscious of how our subconscious mind is working to be able to manage it better. I'll give you a small example. I have 2 daughters. I live with my family in Gurgaon, and when my younger daughter was very small, her hand came in the door, got crushed in the door, and her finger was almost severed, it had almost come off, and she was paining, and there was a lot of blood which was flowing. And seeing that, my elder daughter started crying, and then we tried to put her finger into the water to control, put ice, but then the whole vessel of water got filled with the blood. And then my wife also lost control. She also, so there are three people in the house who are wailing, crying in pain, and all of that. And I am certified, I am trained to handle emergencies. I've worked in healthcare background also. So in that point of time, I didn't let my emotions overrule me, but I used the conscious part, the prefrontal cortex, which is the dark blue part you're seeing in the front. By using that, I kept calm. I called the doctor in my clinic, told him this is what has happened. He said, get her over to the clinic. I didn't have a car, so I was, while all this drama is happening, I was thinking coolly what I need to do. I was focused on the solution. And the key point is, because I was trained to handle this, I could do it. So we need to train our minds to remain calm and not panic and do the short circuit whenever we are faced with a crisis. And then we took her to the clinic, some bandage was done, then we got her admitted in the hospital, anesthesia was given, and surgery was done. So all of that happened, so this is how our brain functions, and we'll be happy to take questions around this when we move to the Q&A session. A lot of background noise. So, maybe the next slide, please. So I'd like to give two more examples to illustrate the functioning of our subconscious mind. This one, the iceberg one. So our conscious mind is very small, which is like the tip of the iceberg, and the subconscious mind is the major part, which is about 90-95% of our mind. But our conscious brain can control the subconscious brain. So just to explain this and understand this better, think of how we, when we are learning to drive a car. Initially, we learn ABC, accelerator, brake, clutch, and all of that is happening consciously. And once we become comfortable, those neural pathways are formed in our brain. And then we are able to drive while we are talking. And, I've seen people, they're talking on the phone, they're eating their breakfast, and they're driving the car. All of this can happen simultaneously as we get used to it. So that is how powerful the subconscious brain is. It is million times more powerful in processing the data. But as far as learning new thing is concerned, it is the conscious mind which helps us learn new things. And I'll explain this in coming slides, why I'm saying learning new things is important and why subconscious mind. So together, the conscious and subconscious need to work for optimum efficiency. And the picture of elephant has been shown here to emphasize the fact that the Mahat who's sitting is like the conscious mind and the elephant is like the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is very powerful, but the conscious mind can exercise control over the subconscious mind. So sometimes people ask me, Ashish, I have so much of mental chatter going on in my mind, always something going on. I don't know how to control my thoughts. At that point of time, you need to exercise your conscious faculties to be able to control and direct your thinking. We'll talk more about it as we go in the coming slide. Another example I would like to share with you of our functioning of subconscious mind is that it is like a hard disk in a computer. Like a hard disk can only be used for storage of data. Our subconscious mind also is for storage of data. If I store a file called ABC, then when I go to retrieve, if I type ABC, I'll get file ABC. But if I go and type XYZ, I'm not going to get XYZ. So that is why, our subconscious mind will not give us an answer to an information which has already not been fed there. So that is why in situations like COVID-19, which is an unprecedented crisis for humanity, never ever we have faced a situation like this in the past. Our subconscious mind is not what is going to give us our answers. It is by focusing on the conscious mind, next slide, please, we are going to get our answers. So whenever we face uncertainty or when we face challenges, we need to leverage on creativity. We need to leverage on our imagination, and we need to learn new skills to be able to handle the challenges. So the dark blue part which you are seeing above the eye is the prefrontal cortex, which is the faculty which is associated with creativity, imagination, and learning new skills. So this is the part we need to exercise whenever we are faced with uncertainty, or we want to, we don't know what to do. We need to use our faculty of imagination. So that is about the points I wanted to make about how to handle stress, because one of the things which equips us to handle stress is the ability to understand our mind. And once we understand that this is how our mind functions, we get equipped better. Moving on to the next slide. And all this takes practice, and it happens one by one. It is about replacing one thought at a time. So it doesn't happen overnight. I urge you to be gentle with yourself, to be patient with yourself. And Gitanjali is going to talk more about acceptance and aversion, attachment. So, but it is all to be, you need to accept yourself as we are right now. And acceptance does not mean complacency. So accept our thoughts, change them, change whatever is disempowering to you with an empowering thought. And as you keep doing that, you will find that more and more power you get. And I would like to complete by sharing two stories. Next slide, please. Which is about which have personally helped me transform my life. And I'm sharing this because these are very tough times. I interact with a lot of people, and they're worried a lot. They're under a lot of stress. What will happen to my job? What will happen to my family? What will happen to this? What will happen to my EMIs, etc. So we are all seeking certainty in our life. But what I would like to share with you is a story about Buddha. And when I heard it first time, it made such an impact on me. I hope you will also benefit from this story. The story goes like this. Buddha used to go begging for food, being a monk. And one day he reached a house, and that lady of the house didn't have any food to give to Buddha. And he was accompanied by a disciple of his. So lady of the house felt very ashamed, in going out and telling Buddha that we don't have anything to share today. So what she did was she asked her young daughter to go out and tell Buddha that we don't have anything to give. And the young daughter was about 7-8 years old. She didn't realize what's happening. Happily, she ran out, and she was about to tell Buddha that we don't have anything to give. But Buddha realized, what is she going to say? So Buddha kind of stopped her midway and said, Beta, you see that dirt lying on the floor? You pick it up and give to me. And the girl picked up the dirt on the floor and put it in the vessel in which Buddha was, collecting his food. And then Buddha very calmly walked away from there. But his disciple was very agitated. Disciple said, Buddha, we anyway didn't have anything to eat today. We didn't have much to eat today. Now this girl has put dirt. You asked her to put dirt on this. Even this food will go waste, and we will have to go hungry for a day. And Buddha very calmly told his disciple that we will go hungry for a day, but the lesson which that girl has learned will help her in a life, help her for the whole lifetime, which is that you always have something to give. And friends, when I had heard this story, I was particularly going through a very tough time in my life. And, but this, I was feeling very impoverished. And I thought, what is it that I can offer to people? I have nothing to offer to people. I'm seeking, my whole life, I'm seeking promotions, I'm seeking business, I'm seeking increments, I'm seeking love, I'm seeking, always seeking. We're always wanting something. What is it that I have to offer? And nothing came to my mind. Then what I started doing was I started putting out water for the birds. It doesn't cost any money. So I started putting out water for the birds. Then I started, putting up motivational quotes in my WhatsApp status, and people started appreciating that. I started giving good wishes to people, and one thing led to the other. And that transformation which happened in my mind from being a seeker to being a giver transformed me, and my business flourished, because rather than going and asking for business, I would go from the attitude of a giver, and I would go and meet people and say, what is it that I can do for you? And that transformation, helped my business boom. And that is something and one of the things when I share this story, people ask me is, Ashish, what if I'm taken advantage of? What if I become bankrupt by just giving? So you need to be cautious. I'm not asking you to just go and squander everything. Just give as much as you are comfortable with. But the joy of giving is far more. And those of you who are science students, even if you are not science students, you would have heard the third law of Isaac Newton, that says that whatever every action has got an equal and opposite reaction. So when you start giving out, if you're giving out good wishes will come back to you many times. It is science. There is nothing else. So the complete life transforms. So I think there's just one last story quickly I'll share with you, and then I'll request Gitanjali to take on. It is a story about a poor old farmer in Central Europe. Next slide, please. Who was so poor that he didn't even have, so they used to use horses to uh, till the land, and he didn't have any money, so he borrowed money to buy a horse, but that horse ran away from the stable into the jungle nearby. And the farmers' neighbors came and said, this is such a bad thing that has happened. You had taken loan to buy this horse. Now the horse has run away. You were saddled with the loan. Such a bad thing. And the farmer was a very wise man. He said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And it so happens that the horse who ran away to the jungle made friends with 12 new horses, and he returns to the farmer's village. And the now farmer has got 13 horses. So the neighbors come again, once again, and say that, oh, such a good thing has happened. You now have 13 horses. And the farmer once again said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And these were wild horses. And when the farmer's son was trying to tame them, uh, he fell and he broke his leg. And the neighbors came and said, oh, this is such a terrible thing that has happened. Such a bad thing. Nobody will marry your son now. And the farmer once again says, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And the village in which the kingdom in which this village was, went on a war with the neighboring kingdom, and the king asked his army to go and recruit all able-bodied men. And the army came to the village. They recruited everybody, but they didn't take the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. So the neighbors of the farmer came and said, oh, there's such a good thing that has happened to you. Your son is here with you. Our children have been taken away. We don't know whether we will live to see them. And the farmer once again said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? So, friend, you would have got the moral of the story. A lot of, we tend to look at life in terms of a single event. Like a lot of people tell me COVID-19 has happened. It is such a terrible thing which has happened. But I'm sure when we look back at 2020, in 2021, we will look at it with so much more hope and optimism, because something good would have come out of this. And there are many good things that have come out of COVID-19. I would not take time to go into that. But the point is, don't judge your life at a particular point of time. Life is not a still photograph. It is a movie which keeps going on. So accept things as they are. And that is what will give you a lot of strength, and a lot of strength to deal with the adversity that all of us are facing today. And with that, I would like to hand over to Gitanjali for her to take the session forward and share her deep insights in this subject.
Thank you, Ashish. Avik, do you want to run the poll at this moment?
No, Gitanjali, we don't have a poll now. So that will be.
Do you think, Ashish, Gitanjali, we should run the poll now?
Ashish, as you like.
No, so there is no poll, Gitanjali. There is one which is there with after your presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Great. We'll then ask Gitanjali to make the presentation.
Okay. Well, Ashish, thank you so much for your fantastic insights into the mind. And folks like Ashish said that there is something to be said about attention. There is always an attention deficit that we have. You know, it's like that famous quote that Albert Einstein said, that if you can drive safely while kissing a girl, then you're simply not giving the kiss the attention it deserves. So, so I hope that over the next 20 or 30 minutes that we have left, I hope that we will not face any attention deficit, and that everyone who's on this call will be fully present with what we're trying to convey here. Okay, so the path of joy. All right, so I assume that everyone on the call today is a working professional, or at least most of us here are working professionals. So let's say you have a skill gap as far as your role is concerned. Let's say you have a need to improve your communication skills. So what would you do? You would go for a training program or go to an expert and then come back the next day on the job and practice whatever you've learned on the program, right? So being happy or being on the path of joy is exactly like this. It is a skill that is to be learned. Being happy means learning to be happy. Being happy means inculcating the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude to be on the path of joy. Happiness is not something that will come to you if you acquire a thing or a relationship or a person, however expensive or however grand that thing is, or however beautiful or ideal that person is. That is not going to be your source of happiness. But happiness will come to you if you learn the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude to be happy. Now, let's say you go for a program on problem solving skills, okay? And you come back to your job the next day. Now, does it mean that your problems will disappear, that the next day onwards there'll be no problems in your job? No, not at all. In fact, the more you progress in your career and rise higher and higher, the kind of problems you would need to solve would be more and more complex, isn't it? But you would have learned the skills and the experience to solve those problems. So it's the same thing with happiness or being on the path of joy. Being happy, if somebody is happy, it does not mean that there won't be any challenges or difficulties or problems in their life. But you would have learned the skills and the knowledge, and you would have had the experience to solve those problems or solve those challenges in a calm and compassionate manner. So that's the first thing about happiness. It is something to be learned. It is something to be acquired by way of knowledge, skills, and attitude. Okay, so I guess the next logical question then that you would ask is, okay, so what is that knowledge? What are those skills that would keep me on the path of joy, right? So I would say two things. There are two things that can derail you from being on the path of joy, right? And here is when I will request Naresh to show the slide. Naresh, can you? Yeah, perfect. So this is the first thing. Remember, we're talking about two things that keep you from being on the path. The first is this: clinging to desire, or the constant wanting of something or someone that will make you happy. So, you know, we all tell ourselves that when I get that job, or when I get that promotion, or when I get that raise, or when I get that relationship, when I marry the person I love, that is when I'm going to be happy. So happiness for us is not here. It's not in this moment, but it is in something. It is in that promotion, or it is in that raise, or it's in a new house or a new car. And we all know that human desire is insatiable, right? We all know that. Now, if we keep postponing our happiness until the time we get that thing, or we get somebody, or we get that relationship, then by logical deduction, we are never going to be happy, right? So, Naresh, could you click once again? So this is the first thing that keeps you off the path of joy. not getting what we want. Now this is, it's called attachment. I know that, and it's called attachment in Buddhist scriptures, in the Mahayana, Tibetan Mahayana tradition. It's called attachment. Now I know that attachment in the Indian culture is actually, it has a positive connotation, right? Attachment, I guess we look at it as love or compassion or giving and kindness. But truth is that there is a difference between love and attachment. So the first reason why we cannot be, or we get off the path, is when we don't get what we want. The next, and Naresh, if you could click once more, is the flip side, getting what we don't want. Like Ashish gave the example of a boss, right? So let's say you had a great boss for a couple of years. Your boss loved you, cared for you, knew about your family, your personal life, and gave you a lot of flexibility to work, and gave you a lot of credit and appreciation for your work. So everything was very positive about this person. And now today you have a new boss, and this boss is different. I'm giving you one example. There are so many such examples that you can think about getting things that we don't want in our life. But let's say this new boss does not give you the kind of attention that your old boss did. He's all right, but does not care about you or care about your personal life. He's or she is probably more task oriented and expects you to deliver results faster than the previous boss. Whatever that is, we instantly make we give a label to this person. This person is unpleasant or unwanted, and there is a sudden feeling of aversion that can lead to anger, that can lead to frustration, that can lead to sadness. And then we are cribbing about this new boss to our friends and family, and everyone in our circle knows, oh, I've got a new boss, and you know what, he or she is just not that good. And in our mind, we constantly push away this person from our life instead of accepting what we have. So two things that keep us away from the path: not getting what we want and getting what we don't want. Let's go to the next slide. Now, this is just going one step deeper as to how this happens, how attachment and aversion happens. So this is how and I'll talk about attachment first. This is how our mind participates in our reality. When we like something, our mind exaggerates the positive aspects of that thing or that person. All right, I'm sure we've had that experience when we fell in love for the first time, maybe as teenagers or in our early 20s or whatever that was. And we loved everything about this person. You know, we had our blinkers on, and some of our friends or even our family told us, you know what, wait, have you experienced this about the person? Do you know he or she does this? Or there's something that is wrong, which our family or friends were trying to tell us, but no, everything about this person was fantastic. And that's what our mind told us, that you know what, if I have this person in my life, then that's for me is going to be a source of everlasting happiness. And then our mind wants to cling to that object, or grasp that object, or wants that object in our life. And if we don't get that person or that object in our life, it could also be a house, it could be a car, it could be anything, anything, any source outside of us, which we feel if we don't get will then keep us disappointed or dissatisfied in our lives. And the same thing with aversion. When our mind labels something or somebody as being not good or not as pleasant, because you think about your mind, everything, if you analyze this a bit, everything that we come across or see or feel or taste or touch in our lives, we create an impression. It's either a positive impression or negative. It's either good or bad. And all the good we want to attach to ourselves, all the bad we want to push away from ourselves. So the mind, like Ashish spoke about the mind participates in our reality. And therefore we say that if you change your mind, the good part is that the mind is completely in our control. So if you can control your mind, you can change your reality. And so that's what happens in a negative situation. When you don't like something or you don't like a person, also, our mind exaggerates the negative aspects of that person. And it tells us, you know what, let's keep that situation as far away from us as possible. Let's keep this person as far away as possible. We may not have any tangible or logical idea why, but our mind wants to push it away. And then in an extreme situation, our mind also may wish harm to that person or that thing. So this is how our mind works when it comes to attachment and aversion. Now, I think you can stop the slides now, Naresh, because I just wanna go a little bit deeper into why attachment and aversion happens in the first place. So, have you ever noticed how often we keep thinking about ourselves? If you analyze all your thoughts in the day, how many of those thoughts are about me, about I? Everything actually is about the I. Anything that we see as positive or beautiful, we want to bring it to the I. And everything that we see as negative or not so good or unpleasant or unwanted, we want to push it away from the I. Have you ever thought about why that happens? That happens because we ourselves don't feel enough. The I does not feel complete in itself. And in order to feel complete, it needs something or some person to complete it. Yeah. Now, why does this happen? Imagine, let's say you have a fracture or your hand is injured. Yeah. What happens when you have an injury in your hand? You're constantly thinking about your hand. You don't want it to hurt something. You want it to be safe. You're constantly thinking about it, right? But if your hand is fine, then we are fine. We're just working, and it's all natural. We are happy. We're happy inside. There's we have well-being inside. There is no problem. So it's the same thing with the I. When we are hurting inside, when we are conscious of ourselves, when our self-esteem is low, when our self-confidence is low, that's the time when all our consciousness gets devoted to protecting ourselves. So, on the other hand, if we are confident inside, when we have a sense of well-being and we have a sense of happiness that comes from within, then we go with the flow. Now I have it, now I don't. So what? So what we need to do in our lives is learn to build that inner sense of happiness. We need to give joy to others and not think about me all the time. It's like what the Dalai Lama said, that if you want others to be happy, then practice compassion. And if you want to be happy, practice compassion. Right? So I just want to end, because I think it's important to address questions as well. But I will end here, and I just want to say that there is no difficulty, or there is no suffering or problem in your life that you cannot take and transform yourself by being on the path of spirituality. So please be on the path, explore the path of spirituality, read scriptures, and be on the path of joy. So with that, I will close what I wanted to say, and I don't know if there are any polls or questions, but we'd be happy to answer them. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Gitanjali. Thank you so much, Ashish. Really inspiring statements, really inspiring anecdotes, stories. I mean, both of you, and I think it's very relevant considering the times that we stay, especially the working professionals for the last 7-8 months under extreme pressure, trying to save their jobs, trying to save their livelihood. Yeah, all sorts of problems. Can we then do the poll right now, Ashish and Gitanjali? There's one.
Yes, please.
Okay, sure.
Yes. So I will. The poll is already in progress. It says that, have you experienced a source of joy? Example, a person or relationship or thing that has sort of turned into a source of sadness over a period of time. And we will probably ask the audience and the respondent to respond as quickly as possible. I think it should be in a minute. We already just have about 30 seconds remaining, so I would request the audience to be quick. Twenty to go. Just 5 seconds more. And we are done, I would say. Yes. 55% people have voted, and an overwhelming majority, 3/4 of people, say that they have experienced as a source of joy in either a personal relationship or something that has turned into a source of sadness for them over a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
this is exactly it. So it's 76% have said that that they have experienced some source of joy. It could be a person, it could be a relationship or a thing, which at first actually may have seemed to be perfect, and we would have loved to have that in our lives. But over a period of time, and this is
correct.
something that's called impermanence, and that things change, people change, situations change, and that is something we need to therefore understand, that that cannot be therefore our everlasting source of joy. It has to come from inside of us.
Great. Ashish, your thoughts on this? I mean, on this poll, just a couple of lines, and then we'll move over to the questions. We already have a few lined up. So
This is a very powerful insight that Gitanjadi has shared by way of the poll. In addition to the, because we are clinging to something, that this is what is going to give me happiness, but over a period of time we realize that that has turned into a source of sorrow or misery for us. And another thing which I particularly liked about what Gitanjali said was, when I am not complete, then I am seeking someone outside or something outside me to complete. But if I'm complete from within, then I don't need anything, and I can just flow with life and be happy. I think that was a big takeaway for
me. Got it. Shall we then move over to the questions?
Sure.
Sure. There are quite a few lined up. I think the first one is from Arpita Chopra, and she asks that what are the various habits you can build to make you or yourself feel more fulfilled, more connected, and more happier at work? Gitanjali, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. I think when you talk about happiness, Arpita, of course, work is one important aspect of your life, but you have to be happy from within. That's most important. So whether it's your work life, which is something that I understand you're focusing on, or it's your life outside of your work. And now, in fact, the lines are blurred fully, right? We don't know what is work life, what is personal life. But there are a couple of things that you can do. One is practice compassion, right? And when I say compassion, of course, when we think compassion, we immediately think of people close to us. We think of our friends, and we think of our family, and we think of people who work for us, right? Or we think of, let's say, if we like animals, then we think of animals in our neighborhood, and we do things for them. But when I say practice compassion, it means go beyond people who you know, people who you care about naturally. Consider people who are suffering in different parts of the city or the country or even the world. Consider people who you never met and who you do a good deed for and then never meet again. That's real compassion. So try and extend yourself to everybody, in Buddhism we say to all sentient beings. So try and extend that. Now at work, you can do the same thing. For example, we say that giving feedback at work, performance feedback or feedback on any aspect of behavior is a very positive quality because it genuinely helps the other person improve. So maybe at work, don't restrict your feedback to your team members or to your peers or to your subordinates. Why don't you go ahead and give some real developmental feedback to people who you may not work with, but they will really value. And of course, you have to be genuine about it. But if you do that, they will really value what you're doing for them. That's one thing. There are so many other things. You could um, yeah, you could practice gratitude, right? When you practice gratitude, then and of course there are steps to doing it, to start feeling grateful and thankful about what you have. But when you do that, you feel so full and so complete inside that you actually want to go out there and do things for other people. You feel that I have enough, and because I have enough now, I have the ability to do things for others as well. So it's a very natural extension uh, of what you can do for other people. So practice gratitude, be compassionate, be open at work with people, and yeah, I think some of those things would be a good start.
Thank you so much, Gitanjali. I hope Arpita has got the most appropriate answer to her questions. A really interesting question here says how to deal with a virtual environment. And before, uh, since Gitanjali, you harped upon this point that the lines between the work and work and live, everything has sort of blurred over the last few months. How to really deal with? Do you think it's possible to deal with this virtual environment, as Ajinkya Lotankar asks? And my just follow-up question would be, how do you actually maintain a sort of a sanity or maintain that stress level or manage the stress levels and pressure of working from home and yet maintaining a possible distinction between your work life and your personal life?
Yeah, would you like me to answer, Avik?
Both of you, I think, you should take this question.
Okay, I'll go first then, I guess. So I think in the virtual environment for us, and for me as a leader, the biggest thing is trust. And building a culture of trust in this environment between peers, between managers and collaborators, their subordinates, is extremely important. And that is something which, of course, it's something that percolates through the organization, but it's really top down, which means that you trust your people to do the right thing at the right time based on their convenience. You have to be, I would say, I wouldn't use the word empathetic because there is a slight difference between empathy and compassion, but I think for the purpose of this question, I will use the word empathy. I think managers must be empathetic towards the situation that their team members are in, and must trust people to take the right call and finish their tasks, responsibilities at the right time in the way that they think best. Because people are facing all kinds of situations, and they're facing very extreme problems as well. We know that there are many people who are young guys and girls who are living independently and being all alone, not having any sort of social interaction with their friends or colleagues at work, and just staying at home all alone is creating several psychological issues. Similarly, there are young couples or even older couples who are undergoing a lot of relationship issues just because they have been staying together the whole day for so many days, and that's creating a problem. So I think trust is very important, and yeah, and I think the overall well-being is a big area of focus for us now, and it should be. And it's not just physical well-being. It's also emotional and mental well-being. It's spiritual well-being. So I think for organizations, it's very important to focus now on the overall well-being of people and give them the time and space to manage things the way that works for them best.
Okay.
Ashish.
Ashish, over to you.
That's a very interesting question, and I hear that often. And I would like to just bring out another element to what Gitanjali talked about trust, which is communication. So I think this is very important when we are working in a virtual environment to be proactive about communicating. In a physical environment where we are in office, you get to see people, and even if you're not talking, there is some communication which takes place. But in a virtual environment, you have to take that initiative to communicate with people. So be proactive in communication and do that consciously. That is one of the things I would like to share. And second, which is related to well-being, which Gitanjali spoke about, I would like to focus on the physical well-being part, because human body is designed for movement. We have lived as hunter-gatherers for millions of years, where we would constantly be moving, and suddenly there is no movement. We're just moving from one room to the other. So I urge everybody to take out time and exercise, sitting, for long hours. And most of the people I know are not even sitting in the proper posture. They don't have proper furniture. The homes are not equipped for working for such long hours. So take proper care of your posture, exercise, do physical exercise, mental exercise, pranayam, yoga, spiritual meditation is of course important, but please take care of your body also. And the third thing I would like to share is be grateful for whatever is going right in your life. There are challenges, but at the same time, we need to be grateful for what is going right. We have got roof over our head. If you're having a work-life balance issue, the good thing is that you have got work. There are so many people these days who don't even have a work, and those guys would do anything to get their life out of balance but get a work. So here you have work, so be grateful for it. You have roof over your head, you have family with you, you have food on your table. So whatever is going right, be grateful for it. And as your gratitude increases, as you start appreciating what is going right, you will have more and more things to appreciate in your life. So that is what I would like to share.
I think that's a very interesting point that you made, Ashish. Like a lot of us, I think, across sectors would crib that why haven't we got a promotion this year? Why was salary slashed, or why did I lose a job? But a lot of our editors keep telling us that you should consider yourself lucky, or you should thank your stars that you have a job at the end of the day. So many hundreds and thousands actually don't have one, and considering the job market situation, it's unlikely that all of them will actually return to the workforce in the next few months as well. So I think, yeah, it's probably necessary to realize what you have got in your life, rather than not always to crib about what you don't have. Another question is from let me just run down this. Kumari R. She asked that why is happiness so elusive at times, and how can we bring in more happiness into our work as well as into our lives? Ashish, Gitanjali, anybody's take?
I think this is Gitanjali's clearly.
Kumari, is it? Kumari.
Yes,
Why
correct.
happiness so elusive?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's actually, I would say, happiness is right here. If you feel that Kumari, if you feel that happiness is somewhere else, outside of you, or in your parents, or I don't know if you have a partner or a spouse, or you have children. If you think happiness is in your children, let me tell you, that's not the case. It cannot be forever. It might be now, it might be sometime. I'm not saying I have a child. He is my source of happiness. Of course he is. But it's not going to remain forever. So happiness is not something inside of us, another person or something. It's actually inside of you. You just need to, and the seeds are inside you already. You just need to, give a little bit of manure and water and sunshine to the seeds, and you will see that it becomes a beautiful plant, happiness. It grows within. Okay. So, of course, I know this might sound not very clear, but there are several ways of cultivating happiness, and some of them we spoke about. For example, Ashish spoke about acceptance. It's the first thing. The moment you start accepting things in your life the way they are, and start being thankful for those things, that is your first step towards being happy. And acceptance is not something that is, that is very, it's not a pessimistic attitude. It's not an attitude of being submissive. It's actually a very courageous thing to accept everything the way it is, whether it's good or bad, whether your mind thinks of it as positive or negative, whatever it is. Just look at things around you, accept them as they are, start from there. And of course, meditation, and Ashish spent 5 minutes just talking about the breath. But the more you start understanding yourself, understanding your reality, becoming more self aware, the more happiness will stop being elusive to you. The more happiness will just stay with you. You will feel that there will come a time when you wouldn't need any other external stimulant to make you happy, because there's so much of you, so much of that happiness inside of you already.
She asks another question, and I think I should direct this to Ashish. What is the scientific evidence for mindfulness efficacy in the workplace?
Oh, immense, immense. I'm glad you've asked that question, because there are 6,000 research papers, on mindfulness and its efficacy. You can just go and Google mindfulness at workplace. There are many. I would like to share one instance, which is a program on mindfulness which was launched by Mr. Mark Bertolini in Aetna. Aetna is a Fortune 50 organization. Now it has been taken over by CVS, but it was top 50 and one of the top 3 health insurance companies in America. So he introduced mindfulness. He himself is a mindfulness practitioner, and he saw the benefits of managing his personal situation. I'm not going into all the details, but you can Google. It's a Mark Bertolini, New York Times, 2014 or 2015 article. And he introduced mindfulness in his organization. Out of 50,000 people, about 13,000 people went through some sessions of mindfulness, and the productivity in the organization per employee went up by $3,000 per annum. Annual productivity went up by $3,000. Healthcare costs came down, and the stock price tripled in 5 years. So it had benefit across many factors, and there are many more studies. You can just Google on mindfulness efficacy evidence at workplace, you will get it. There is a small note, summary note that I have put out. You can download it. It will give you some of the summary, and you can use that also for future reference. So there is a summary note which you can download. Yeah.
Ajinkya asks another question. It's about how to be happy with your current scenario. I think Gitanjali has just touched on that. But would you like to add anything to it, or you feel that's sufficient? How to be happy in the current scenario or in the present moment?
Yeah. Ashish, do you want to?
Yeah, there's just one thing I would like to add to what Gitanjali shared earlier, which is, we put conditions. So just review the conditions that you put for happiness. Is it that COVID will go away, then I'll be happy? Or if I get my promotion, then I'll be happy? Or I'll have a bigger house, then I'll be happy? I'll have my own house, then I'll be happy? My child goes into IIT, I'll be happy? I go into IIM, I'll be happy? What are the conditions you have put for your happiness? Just review those conditions, and if you remove the conditions, then you can get happiness right now. Happiness is not conditional. You can be happy right now, right here, as long as you remove the conditions and you accept things as they are. Like Gitanjali so beautifully mentioned, that we are always running towards or running away from things, but just accept things as they are. And once you start accepting things as they are, you will find magic that happens. And this is in terms of everything, and particularly in terms of relationships. We have so many expectations from people around us. He should be like this, she should be like that. But you start accepting people as they are. And there's a small story, I'd just like to share. Once I had gone to Golden Temple in Amritsar, and there they serve you halwa, and which is very tasty, and it's a prasad. And they serve piping hot halwa right onto your palms. So you stand like this and they put, and it's hot, it's piping hot, so you can't eat it, and you can't throw it because it's prashad. So what do? You just just move it from one hand to the other till it cools, and that's how you manage the situation. So that is what I would like to share about acceptance. Sometimes you will have some hot burning things come, you will have some unpleasant things come. Just accept them, and you can't throw it away, you can't take it inside. So just accept it as it is and manage it as it is. That is what I would like to share on that.
Yeah. I just also want to say that Ajinkya asked this, right? Ajinkya?
Correct.
That whatever it is, I mean, you've asked the question with an intention. We don't know what that is, but whatever it is that is keeping you from feeling a sense of happiness inside, I would just say be easy with yourself. Just soften up a bit. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you're being too hard on yourself, and especially in these circumstances. I don't know whether you've lost a job or whether you're facing financial difficulties or relationship issues. We don't know. But Ajinkya, what I what I would like you to do is just go easy on yourself. Treat yourself like your best. Let's say your best friend or your cousin or someone close to you was going through the same problems or the same kind of challenges that you are going through right now. How would you counsel your best friend? What kind of words would you say? You would tell them to relax. It's okay. It's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. If you lost your job, it's not your fault. There are millions of people who've lost their jobs. So be easy. Go easy on yourself, especially during this time, this year. Soften up towards yourself and just know that you're not in this alone. That whatever problems you have, everybody, it doesn't matter whether you're the richest person in the world or whether you're a beggar on the street, or it does not matter. Everybody, the most fluent countries have the largest suicide rates. So it's not, you're not in this alone. Just know that.
I think with this, Gitanjali has actually answered the question that Shivakumar Nagarajan had actually posted. He says that he has 20 plus years of job experience, but now that he has lost his job, he asks that what are the chances of getting a job in a current situation? Well, I mean, it's tough to answer.
Of course, it's not easy, Shivakumar. Of course, it's not easy. But you have to. You see that there is no choice. You have to accept what the situation is at the moment. And I know in this sort of a situation, we sometimes we get into denial. Sometimes we don't want to accept how things are, or we don't know what to do about it. We just want to. There is a problem in front of you, and you need to solve that problem. So just recognize that there is an issue. Be okay with what exists, and like I said, it's something that's happening to a lot of people. It's very unfortunate, but it's the reality of today. So first, in yourself, just accept what exists at the moment without fighting it. The more you fight it, the more difficult it will be for you to create a great impression in front of a new interviewer or a new recruiter. Right now, I assume you would be going out to interview and meeting people in companies, meeting HR and other people through references. So just go with a sense of confidence and openness to whatever there exists. I know with 20 years of experience, you might be a super specialist or an expert in something already, but be flexible. At this point in time, be flexible with whatever is coming your way, and then weigh your opportunity.
I would just like to add to that, Shiv Kumar, I would also urge you to take a stock of the skills you have. And sometimes we get too narrowly stuck in the industry that we have been working with. But it is very much possible that these skills and experience that you have may be applicable and in great demand in any other industry. So please review your skill sets, And I'm sure you have a lot of value to add, which and with an attitude of you being able to add value, you being bringing value to the table rather than seeking something, and that's the kind of attitude that I find works best.
Thank you so much, Ashish. There's another very interesting question from Ketki Bhatti. She asked that how can one be happy with colleagues who are negative or toxic? Like, how do we actually deal with them? Ashish, you want to take this? That's a really interesting question in these times.
Sure, sure. So there is, I would like to share this. I'd like to share a small story. There was a saint who was bathing in the river, and he found that his scorpion is drowning. So he picks up the scorpion, and as he's putting him on the bank, the scorpion stings him, and it so happens that the scorpion falls again in the river, and Swamiji again picks it up, and the scorpion again stings him, and this is going on for a couple of times. And there was a person who was still sitting on the bank of the river, and he's asking the saint, why the scorpion is biting you again and again? Why are you all again and again putting out of the river and putting him on the bank? So Swamiji says that's his nature to sting, and give out poison. It is my nature to be positive and save the person. So I think it is important for us to recognize what is our nature and not get reflected by the negativity which is around us. And if we stay positive, sooner or later you will find that either you will move up in life or those people will move out of life, your life. So stay positive. Don't let them, don't let the negativity get you. And these situations will be there everywhere. We feel that it is a situation peculiar to my organization, but and sometimes people leave the organization and search for a more positive environment, but they find that the new organization also the same kind of situation repeats. So it is not about changing people; it is just staying positive to your core, and dealing with it, accepting people as they are. Because whatever negative they have is trying to show us something, and that is the learning we should take from the environment.
Got it, Ashish. Can both of you just tell me how to deal with this day-to-day stress? I'll just give you the background of this. Last month we were conducting a webinar, and I think it was the head of Walmart Labs India who actually told us while having a discussion that all this work from home situation has created so much of pressure, so much of fear in the minds of employees that they are almost sort of compelled to be in front of their screens. They always feel that if they're out, they're not in front of the screens, they aren't responding to messages. It always probably sends a negative message to their superiors or to their boss that they probably are sort of taking things easy under these circumstances, starting very early in the morning, ending late at night. All these are creating a havoc in their lives. How to deal and how to manage this sort of stress? Stress will always be there, no matter what. And what Gitanjali said earlier, the higher move up the ladder, your stress, your problems become more complex. But how do taking a step back, how do you actually manage these sorts of stress?
Okay, so we have talked about this a lot in our organization. And the one thing, and of course, from an organization standpoint, one does a lot of things. For example, no meetings after Fridays, after Friday afternoons, or no meetings between 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., or don't start before 9 a.m. Make sure that your laptop is out or down by 7:30 p.m. or 7 p.m. Don't work on weekends. Everything, because our machines are with us, and now we've created a nice work environment at home, so we are ourselves tempted to go there. One is, of course, pressure from the outside, pressure from the bosses or from other people in the company, but the other is our own temptation to be connected all the time. And the one thing beyond what your organization is doing, look, we can't influence what the culture of the company is, where Ketki, right? Ketki, I don't know who asked this question, is working. Or you asked this question, Avik. But self-discipline is really, really important. You have to figure out the way in which your day works on a weekday, on a work day, and then work around it, and then stick to it. So if, for example, you don't need to switch on your machine before 9 a.m., don't do it. Don't be tempted to check mails on your phone. Don't be tempted to make calls before 9 a.m. At 6 a.m. or 6:30 p.m., just shut shop and make sure that your weekends are spent, even though it's really easy to start working on a weekend, make sure that you're taking that time off. So I would say one is self-discipline when it comes to your own work. Two, take care of your body. Ashish talked about physical well-being. Really important to take care of your body. So exercise, eat well, get enough time to sleep. This is very generic advice, but please do these things. If you can take time out, which is the whole point of this hour, if you can take time out to meditate, please do that. It is going to be the most precious gift that you give to yourself in your life. Even if you start with 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, and there are so many videos and channels that can teach you how to do simple meditation techniques, please take that. Even if you feel that, you know what, this was the most unproductive time to begin with, it does not matter. I can assure you, and I'm sure Ashish can assure you, it would be the best thing that you do for your life going forward. Just meditate for 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. Don't expect anything to come out of it for 1 week or 2 weeks. But after the third or the fourth week, we promise you magic will happen in your life.
Ashish, you want to add? We probably need to now
Yeah,
wrap it up. Yeah.
yeah, that's a very interesting point. And one thing I would like to share is that we are always reacting to the environment around us. You know, like you mentioned that there is always stress of responding to emails, etc. And we fear that if I don't respond, something bad will happen. You know, I may lose my job because, and anyway, it's difficult to get job. And so there are two things I would like to share. One is stay focused on what we can do in a situation. As long as we are focused on what we can do and doing that to our best is the half the battle won. And then there will be always situations that are outside our control. And those things which are outside our control, rather than worry that they might go wrong, I would urge you to trust that they will go right. And that's a small but very significant difference. When you start trusting that things will go right, you're putting your energy there. And I assure you that 6 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, things will go right. But it is that because we are so wired to think negatively, we always assume the worst. But make that small switch and start trusting things will go right, and you will find that they will go right more often than not.
Got it. I would request the viewers to actually can take the survey once we are done. We have almost reached the end of our session. We had a hard stop at 5, but then we had so many questions pouring in. I mean, and all very, very relevant, and it just shows the importance of these sorts of sessions in today. We need to wrap it up, but thank you so much, Ashish. Thank you so much, Gitanjali, for taking both of your time out and attending this. Really great points, and really appreciate that. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for being a great moderator as well.
Yeah. There is an attachment which is there, so the viewers can download it, Avik, and they can use this as that's got the summary points.
Yes. Thank you for actually letting the viewers know that, Ashish. You actually gave them a reminder even before. Yes. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avik. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this.
Sure. Bye.